Hello there. Glad you joined me today for Dr. Teach Me to Parent. Welcome. Today we're going to focus on a particular problem of the family. Many of us have no problem in this area of life, but there are many people that have enormous problems in this area of life, and that is alcohol consumption in the family. Or sometimes we refer to this as alcoholism in the family. So we're going to be talking about that today and put that into perspective, and we have a guest, Mr. Greg Robinson, who's written a book, and the great book on Alcoholism Handbook. You have to see it on the screen there, and we're going to discuss his book today and his experience in the area of alcohol counseling and working with people, and obviously the experience that he had in writing this particular book, because it relates to the family. So let me put this into perspective today, just so that we have kind of a organized way of coming at the topic, okay? You have it on the screen there. Alcoholism is a family problem or a family disease, if you think of it that way. And when there is only one person in the family that's drinking, the whole family is affected. So put that into the context of family consumption of alcohol. Even if one person drinks alcohol in a family, the entire family is affected by that consumption. And however that person consumes alcohol and whatever it does to him or her and how it affects the family, but the entire family is affected. You can't think of it in the sense of this is just something that I do and I drink and nobody else drinks. It isn't that way, because everybody gets affected, by that particular consumption of alcohol, whether it's by the father or the mother or an uncle or a grandparent or an older sibling or whomever it happens to be. So you have to look at it in the context of what does that consumption of alcohol in the family do to the family? What's the effect on the family? So that's what we're going to look at today in our general discussion. So welcome, Mr. Robinson, and thanks for joining us today. You have a great book, and it was just published, last month, right?
Yes.
About a month now it's been out, and the Alcoholism Handbook. How did you get to write that book? What was the motivation for you to write this book?
Well, a lot of it came from, past experience with part of that problem of alcohol in the family. And I know growing up even as a young child, the first impressions were that certain families or certain family members seemed to always have that alcohol.
That's an interesting point. The first impression.
Yeah.
That's an interesting way you express that, because when you think of a first impression on a young child, that's a lasting impression.
Yes.
It's not just a first impression. It's the first one, but it's a lasting one.
Yes.
And I gather it was for you.
Yes, because back in those days, I remember we did a lot of family visits, different families, different times, a lot. And there were certain families that I remember, and not some of them, the whole family. And I'm talking about the dad and two cousins, which I don't think they were 21, but yet they drank alcohol the whole time we were there.
Sure.
And every time we went, they were drinking.
See, there's a message in there, isn't there?
Yeah.
That when somebody in the family drinks, that's kind of like saying, it's all right.
It's okay.
It's all right. It's okay to do. So if you have a child that you allow to drink 28 years of age, 19, 18, or whatever, some even less than that, obviously, that says it's okay to do that. It's an encouragement.
Yeah.
And we obviously know that the research shows that alcohol is an addictive drug, right?
Yes.
And when it's an addictive drug, it's just a matter of time. It's a matter of how many ounces you drink over a period of time before an addiction actually occurs.
Yes.
Did you address that in the book?
I did, and I did, and what I was continuing to say was that the alcohol does stick with the child. It's what they remember.
Yeah.
And it goes on. I don't particularly remember having alcohol in my house.
Oh, is that right?
With my family.
Oh, you didn't, as a family, you did not?
No.
It was people that came in your house that brought it in.
I don't even remember that. It was always somewhere else.
Oh, somewhere else, yeah.
But then, you go through that for 12, 14, 16 years. Mm-hmm. And then I remember the alcohol did come into the family. at about my age of 17, 18.
Oh, I see. So it started coming in later. Yeah.
And you know, the parents moved to the country. They joined a lodge group, and I won't say which one. And there were parties every 2 weeks, every month, and they were a good place to have them because they could put a wood dance floor out there and have a party. But the thing that I remember the most, even at that age, was that the parties would always start out good and happy and fun, but about halfway through, you get what I call those emotions. You get anger, and you get jealousy, and you know, confrontation. And I remember that not just one, but at every party.
It was the pattern. That's how we did things.
Yeah, and there were lots of those people that were.
Yeah, I always refer to this as the seductive element of alcohol. It starts out pleasantly, and of course that's one of the key factors of any substance that's addictive. No matter what the substance is, if it's addictive, it starts out with having a pleasant effect, relaxes you, allows you to be more enjoyable, allows you to talk a little bit more easily. There's kind of a pleasant, positive effect.
Sure.
Now that's seductive, because then what you do, you consume more, and then you consume more, and now the unpleasant or the negative aspects of that substance takes over. And then we're into all the evil, so to speak, you know, of the addiction.
The negatives.
The negative aspects.
I always say, you know, when people start drinking, it's all good. And whether they have 2 or 5 or whatever, it's good as it goes up. But at some point in time, things change.
Yeah.
So you get an equal amount of time, of bad time, afterwards, whether you call it a hangover or anger issues or confrontation or whatever you want to call it. There's an equal amount of downtime with that.
You mentioned something that's very important, and you said alcohol was not part of your young growing up years in the family. Were you thankful for that? I mean, is that something you look back upon as being,
yes,
you know, a good thing in your life, and you're grateful for it?
Yes.
Why?
Yes, because what I know now and see when there is alcohol in the family, a lot of that time is spent in negativity, in arguing and whatever. And because at 18 I wasn't in the house a lot, but I did have a younger brother, and he was about probably 11 at the time, and that's about the time alcohol started in my family. And over the years, he also began to have problems. Okay, when you have one parent drinking in the house, like you said, you have problems. But when you have 2 parents in a household drinking, those problems are multiplied by
not
10.
twice, 3 times.
Yeah, the dysfunction, the confrontation, constant negativity. And this particular sign, and it's in my book in chapter 8, I think at the end I do some testimonials, and these are just one-liners about the incomprehensible demoralization of alcohol. And I can remember that I was about 30, and that brother would have been about 24. And him and 2 other friends were drinking and playing Russian roulette with a loaded gun. He lost. Okay? And that's the incomprehensible demoralization.
It's got to be a tragic
of alcohol.
A tragic event.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And had it not been for the alcohol, it wouldn't have happened.
Right.
Alcohol is the one that brought about that event.
Right. One of the most important words I'll be saying today are choices. And choices every second of the day. Because these choices, everyone can look back after the fact, after that incomprehensible demoralization, and realize they could have made a better choice.
Oh, maybe much better. It's a wise choice, which is really the point.
Yeah, and I'm going to be talking about making those choices up front, before the first drink. In chapter 2, I think, alcohol prevention, one of the first things that I put out in the first few sentences is the number one rule or tool to use for not drinking, and that is don't pick up the first drink. And that may sound stupid, it may sound funny, But it is the main rule.
But I think for children in a family, it's not just the child not picking up the first drink, although that's critical. That's sort of the starting point. Not to even watch it, not to even view it, not to even let it even come into your life.
Right. Through
father, through mother, through grandparents, through friends and relatives and so on. I mean, if you can keep that out of your home, like you were saying, it was out of your home when you were young. And I know what that is. So when it's out of your home, the likelihood of it becoming part of you is very, very small.
Right.
But if it's in your home, if it is part of your childhood, if it is part of what you see and observe and live with and experience, your chances of doing the same thing is very great, isn't it?
Oh, sure, because when you get 14, 16, 20, 22, whatever, it was okay back then with your parents, so it's got to be okay now. Mm-hmm. And they will try it. And
I was watching Family not too long ago from Georgia, and in Georgia there's a rule that you can drink when you're 16 if your parents are present. And I happened to watch their daughter. They had 3 children, but the daughter particularly. She was 16. She drank 4 and 5 glasses of wine at a time. She's an alcoholic already. Here she's at 16 just starting to drink. She's already into the alcohol addiction pattern.
Right.
Because parents allow for that. And here's a whole state of our nation that encourages early drinking, which means they're going to encourage early addiction.
Yes, yes, because alcoholism is progressive. And there are plenty of what we call normal people drinking 1 drink a night maybe. But my question to that is, I would like to see you in 3 years or 5 years, because alcohol is progressive, and you just have to drink more to get the same effect after you build up a little bit of tolerance.
Yeah, because part of the reason for drinking is to have a certain effect.
Yeah.
And that won't occur after a period of time, so you have to drink more.
Yeah.
And then you have to drink more. And then you have to drink more, and that's the second phase of addiction. It's just following that kind of pattern and making sure you get that buzz, or you get that glow, or you get that positive feeling.
Yeah, the glow is what we call it.
That's what they call it, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the number one reason.
That's
glow.
right. Hey, we're going to take a break. And this is Mr. Greg Robinson, who's written a great book, The Alcoholism Handbook. And we're going to look at his chapter on family drinking when we come back, and what's it like in a family that drinks, and how parents can deal with this issue within the context of family life. So go get yourself a cup of coffee and come on back, and we'll pick up our topic in just a few minutes, okay?
The Green Gables Care Home is a 24-hour assisted living facility for the elderly, located in Clovis, California, offering spacious private and semi-private rooms which are wheelchair-approved, catering to the special person in your life who needs attention and wants to live in a loving home environment. The Green Gables Care Home has assisted living and secured homes for elderly persons with Alzheimer's, memory loss, and for your loved ones needing assistance with their activities of daily living. Call 559-307-0950 and visit GreenGablesCareHome.com.
Sometimes good intentions hurt rather than help. For just $1.76 per meal, the Fresno Rescue Mission offers more than food. We offer hope. Please donate today.
Do you need a locksmith? Layman's Lock and Safe Service and Repair is available for you. 559-228-1805.
Gained a lot, learned a lot, and got a lot of love. If it weren't for the knowledge that I had gained from the classes at PCC, I probably wouldn't be the mom I am today. See, there it goes.
I would love you to meet my son, Aaron. My situation was very difficult. I didn't know how my life was going to turn out.
We graduated in June 2010, and we got married in July. And through family, the Pregnancy Care Center changed our lives.
The Pregnancy Care Center was a huge, vital part in helping me walk through that pregnancy, in educating me and loving on me during that time.
Choosing a Medicare plan can be difficult and frustrating. Susan Hatch can guide you through the Medicare maze and help find the right plan for you. Susan helps people understand the confusing and drastic changes that occur every year in Medicare. Susan will only recommend plans that will protect your assets and allow you to continue to see your personal doctor. As a 100% independent agent, Susan is not controlled by any particular insurance company to steer a person onto any one particular plan. Susan was awarded the #1 Medicare supplement agent in California. Look for Susan's Medicare question and answers every Monday in the Fresno Bee. Call Susan at 559-307-2287 and visit MedicareToday.net. Come learn how to be a better author at the Christian Writers Seminar at Good Shepherd Lutheran Church on Saturday, February 10th, 2018.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Okay, welcome back, and glad you're still with us and joining us today on the Dr. Teach Me to Parent program. And we're looking at the parenting process today in the home, but focusing specifically in the area of alcohol consumption. One of the dangerous behaviors that we allow to come into our home and that we encourage to be used in our home. So those are the two key issues, and I want to address one particular point on the area of alcohol consumption today. And we're talking with Mr. Greg Robinson, who has written a great book, The Alcoholism Handbook. And it's on the screen there for you, and if this is a problem for you or an area of interest to you, go get that book. You can get it at Amazon.com, or you can get it at BarnesandNoble.com on the internet. But go pick up that book. That's a great one. If this is an area of interest or area of difficulty, for you, you'll learn a lot from it. Now, Greg, here's the issue that you addressed in your book, and I think it's a very important one. There's a way that parents become what you called enablers. They enable drinking in each other as husband and wife, and they enable drinking in their children. And when you enable them to do something, you're going to get that kind of behavior. That's exactly what you're going to get, and you're going to get more of it. So how does a wife, how does a father enable children to drink?
Well, that's a really general word, all-encompassing of a lot of things. But parents in general, if you have alcohol in your house just sitting there, you're sending a message to your children.
Exactly.
That the alcohol is okay.
Yeah, just part of life. It's just part of our home.
If you drink it, it's just normal. If you drink it in front of the kids, you're sending another message that it's okay. Mm-hmm. It's just normal. Mm-hmm. And this is all part of enabling. Spouses sometimes enable other spouses to drink just by not saying anything about the issue or the problem. The husband drinks, the wife doesn't want to cause confrontation, so she says little about it.
She may not like it.
She may not like it, right.
And she may know that it's not good to drink in front of the children,
right,
but doesn't say anything about it.
Right.
So by virtue of her silence, she encourages it.
That's enabling.
That's enabling.
Yeah. So it comes in a lot of different forms, in a lot of different ways, but the financial aspect of drinking, that takes a toll on every family. Whether it's talked about or not talked about, that's still enabling. The husband spending money out on alcohol. The wife may have some reservations about that, but again, may not say anything about it. Mm-hmm. And if she does, it'll probably cause some conflict. Okay?
So what she really wants to do is have no conflict.
Right.
So she accepts the drinking
Anytime,
in the home, and she's allowing and really encouraging an enormous problem developing within this family that's going to live on for the next generations.
Yes. You know, people have a million reasons to drink, but they don't have one reason to stop. And you can ask them that. Would you have one reason to stop? And they can't come up with a reason for that. So enabling comes into the family in many different ways. When you get into teens, young people and teens and younger people, 18s and 20s, if you're still drinking in the home, you're still sending that message. And at some point in time, they're gonna try it.
Yeah.
And
You know, I would say this. There is a reason to stop drinking. There is one reason. It's death. It's death.
Yeah.
Alcohol consumption ultimately leads to death. There are things that you can do forever and never die from. But alcohol is something you can die from. But you know, it's not just the death of yourself as a person. It's the death of your marriage. It's the death of your marriage. Your marriage is going to die as a result of that. It's the death of a relationship with your children. It's the death of a bond with your children. You know, it's the death of having a positive influence on your children. Those are deaths. And it seems to me that that's good reason to stop drinking. To me, it makes sense. But I'm sure to a person who is addicted to alcohol, it doesn't make any sense at all.
No, it's just normal for them. And however they justify it, they're special, they deserve it. I can have one, I work hard, I deserve one. Whatever reason they use, you're sending that message out to those younger people that are in your house. And if you do family visits, again, you're sending the message out to those young family members. One example I gave in my book was about a restaurant where you have 4 generations of people there, and they're drinking wine, and you have grandparents, parents, kids, and grandkids, and many of them, some of them underage and young. But as the night goes on, as the dinner goes on, more and more wine is being brought over to the table, and it's every 5 minutes the waitress is coming to the table. These people are no longer drinking for the wine; they're drinking for the alcohol now. And the message
And the effect of the alcohol. Yeah.
The message you're sending to the young people is, this is how we have fun. This is how we have dinners. This is what we do when we get together. We drink.
So it's an example.
Wine. Yes.
And then it becomes a lifestyle.
Yes.
An example eventually moves into a lifestyle, so that you develop a lifestyle, and then you're taking that lifestyle and passing it on to the next generation.
Yes.
So the kids say, well, this is how you do things. So when they have parties in their teenage years, they have a party in the same way that their parents have parties.
Yes.
You know, with the alcohol consumption being a major part of it. So it's just passed on. And I guess that's enabling, isn't it? It's kind of allowing something to happen, even though you don't want it and you don't desire it and you wish it weren't there, but you do nothing to stop it.
Yeah.
What's the one thing a spouse could do, a wife or a husband, if their child start that process and they don't want to enable, they want to stop enabling, or a wife wants to stop the husband and doesn't want to enable. So what's the one thing he or she can do to not enable?
Well, good leaders, good parents lead by example. That's the best rule I can give. And when you say what you mean and practice what you say and give that example out to young people, that's the message you're sending. Young people, you have to really teach them a few different things in life, like it doesn't matter what everyone else is doing. You have to be an independent thinker. You have to think for yourself. You have to understand what right choices are every second of the day. Now, young people make a choice. Maybe in the morning, the breakfast or clothes they're going to wear, where they're going to go, or whatever. But if you teach them to make choices every second of the day, and good choices, then they'll take that and hopefully practice that when they get out to the
there was a research study done just a couple of years back with teenagers. They were at 18 at the time that this study was done, and they were asked to sign a contract to not consume alcohol until they were 21. And the kids signed it, signed the contract. And they compared the group of kids that signed a contract of that nature, no drinking until 21, as compared to a group of children or teenagers, 18 years of age, that did not sign such a contract. And you can know what happened, right? Those that signed the contract, few of them drank alcohol. Few. Most of them did not drink alcohol, even though they were 21, 22, 23, 25, and on. But the ones that did not sign that contract, many of them, majority of them, not only drank alcohol, but drank to excess.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's enabling. Is this, or not enabling? I guess stop the enabling. Is to say, let's set a contract and let's work with a contract.
And from what you just said, I would ask that question: why would you even want to drink after age 21? Nothing good comes from alcohol. Okay,
that's profound, isn't it? Nothing good comes from alcohol.
I know we have it labeled as legal, and over here something's not legal, and they're both drugs. And I'm sorry, but they're both drugs, and nothing good will come from either one of them.
You know, you say nothing good's coming from alcohol consumption. What happens to the person that consumes alcohol? And now it begins to consume it in excess and is now under the dependency of the alcohol. What is their personality? Is it different, or do they change, or is it no effect?
There are characteristics of people that drink, and they usually fall into what we call the 7 sins. And it's an excess amount of pride, greed, lust, gluttony, sloth, or envy. Huh. And you can throw in there anger. And I'm talking about an excess amount of those. A lot of people have a normal amount of those.
Everybody got a little anger. Everybody's got a little...
But when you get up in the extreme, that's when the problems happen. And for some reason with alcohol, people that drink consistently get into those extremes in some of those 7 sins.
So really, a person that now begins to consume alcohol out of pleasure and out of social influence and out of just being part of the party actually becomes a different person.
Yes.
Over time. How long does it take? I mean, is this something that you begin to see after a year or two, or is this something we see developing after 7 years or 10 or whatever it is?
Well, I don't think there's any set limit, because you can see a difference in one day. If someone starts out drinking during the night, by the end of the night, they may have brought out anger and resentments and confrontation. The personality changes quite rapidly with alcohol. Mm-hmm. So overall, alcohol is going to affect your mental, your physical, your finances, your relationships with your spouse. In those areas, that's what will be affected.
You know, in your book, you talked about the financial hit that people take when they consume alcohol to excess and become addicted to it. It's going to affect them financially. And you made a distinction between just the amount of it costs to buy alcohol. That's a small amount. You know, I think you said something like $7.99 or something like that. That's a small amount of money. But the cost of a divorce is huge.
Yes.
You know, the cost of your children is huge.
Yes.
The cost of ill health is huge. I mean, you went on and talked about the cost of alcoholism and the addiction process, that it starts out with just a few bucks. You know, and I guess we justify it like that. I can afford it. It's only a few bucks. But down the road, and sometimes that's 5 years, sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 2. You know, that cost just mounts. You made a great point on that.
And it does. And people will justify that. But they don't realize right away that it's causing problems in the family. When you're taking money and spending it on alcohol, you're taking it away from
Talk about selfishness.
From your kids.
There's your example of selfishness.
Selfishness.
You know, you're taking money that the kids could use. It could be part of their college fund, which you're stealing from, actually, and using it for your own selfish desires and your own selfish will. So you're a very selfish person.
Yeah.
So that's one of the 7 sins. I mean, it's very great self-centeredness.
Yes.
And that's how it shows itself.
Yes.
You don't care about the future of your children. You don't care about their future education. You throw that to the wind because you want something for yourself.
It all becomes about self. What I want.
It really does. Hey, take a little break for a minute, and we're going to come back in just a few minutes and pick up the third segment of this. We're talking with Mr. Greg Robinson, who wrote a great book, The Alcoholism Handbook. And we're looking at how the drinking alcohol and alcohol consumption affects family life and what role we have as parents in dealing with this issue in our own homes and our own families. So we'll see you in just a couple minutes.
When you need a dentist who has a passion for superior aesthetics and comfort, you need Dr. Christopher Wong with Cedar North Dental. Call 559-432-4948 or visit cedarnorthdental.com. Fresno Rescue Mission's Rescue the Children program is a protected, secure environment providing emergency and long-term services to women at risk, abused, homeless, previously incarcerated, and women with children. The community provides women and their children a place to get away from destructive lifestyles, offering a place to heal, learn, and grow. Give to the Fresno Rescue Mission today.
Opportunity isn't always given a door to knock on, so we built one. The door to our kids' futures is often crowded by temptation and misdirection, making it difficult for them to reach their full potential. But once they enter that door, our club door, inside is a place of hope and opportunity. The second home for the nearly 4 million kids we serve every year after school and in the summer. Inside our doors, youth development professionals and mentors provide the guidance, support, and encouragement needed for every kid and teen in an enriching and safe environment, no matter their circumstances. Boys and Girls Club set the standard as the #1 advocate for youth during the out-of-school time. We assure success is within reach for all kids and teens in America, with club members on track to graduate from high school with a plan for the future, demonstrating good character, and living a healthy lifestyle. We're leading America's youth, fostering success well beyond the basketball court through hundreds of programs, from robotics to the culinary arts, providing unlimited opportunities for those seeking. This hope and opportunity builds character, creates leaders, and helps all kids define their future. Ensuring young people find their passions, reach for their dreams, and achieve their full potential. Much can be found inside our 4,000 doors nationwide and on military installations around the world. Boys and Girls Clubs is the opportunity for all kids, and our doors are open. Great futures start here.
Satellite television transforming the Middle East through hope in Jesus Christ. Sat7USA.org.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Okay, thanks for coming back and joining us on this third segment of Dr. Teach Me to Parent. And today we're teaching you to parent relative to the use of alcohol in your life and in your family. Now, Mr. Greg Robinson, our guest today, wrote this book, The Alcoholism Handbook. And again, I would encourage you to pick it up. If alcohol is a problem for you or anybody in your family, or you think it could be, or you just want to know a little bit more about alcohol consumption and alcoholism, pick up this book. Go to barnesandnoble.com, go to amazon.com. It's listed in there, and you'll be able to pick up a copy. And it'd be good reading for you. So there it is on the screen. Okay, now let's return to our little discussion here on this issue of alcohol in the family. You know, Greg, you make a point in your book about the negative impact that alcohol has, not just on the person, the personality of the individual, but the effect that it has upon the marriage. And you spoke about a relatively high level of divorce, you know, that occurs within the alcohol consuming population of marriages. And then you also spoke about the relatively high level of abuse that occurs between spouses over alcohol, whether one's drinking or they're both drinking or whatever. So besides having an effect upon your character, and a pretty negative effect as you outlined in the 7 sins of character, this has got to have a very major negative effect upon the marriage itself and its divorce rate and obviously the abuse level.
And that's true. In a lot of divorces, alcohol will be involved in there somewhere. The same with the words like spousal abuse. Alcohol will probably be in there somewhere. Domestic violence. A lot of it is caused by the use of alcohol. Alcohol is a self-centered thing. The person that drinks it's all about that person. And if they're drinking consistently every day, 3 times a week, whatever it is, that becomes a very selfish, self-centered thing, and everything else becomes secondary. Wives, families, jobs, everything is secondary. And if you get I told you earlier that the alcohol disease is progressive, and recovery is also progressive.
Which means that if alcoholism, the addiction to alcohol, is a progressive thing, that means the divorce issue is also progressive. In other words, the marriage quality goes down over time, over time, over time, so that there's a progression of depreciation of the marriage, I guess is what you'd call it, or in some way the marriage becomes less viable and less positive between them. So over time, a divorce emerges. It'll just happen over time. It's not going to happen when you drink. It's going to happen when you've been drinking over a period of time.
Yes, and I'll just say the opposite of that. See, is be like me working on my marriage every day. See, what can I do today to make your life easier or better? Compared to someone who's drinking, they're not interested in that.
Not interested in that.
They're interested in fulfilling their own self-desires or whatever. And so that's the opposite of extremes. A marriage has to be worked at. And, you know, you ask your spouse sometimes, how am I doing?
Yeah.
You know. Well, the self-centered person is not so much interested in the other one's opinion.
Don't want to know the answer to that question. No,
right.
no.
So,
but I think, from the progression point of view, I think it's important to understand that it's not just the drinking that is progressive, but it's all the effects of drinking which is progressive, which are progressive as well.
Yes.
Even spousal abuse doesn't start out with spousal abuse. It starts out with something mild, and then it becomes abusive over time.
Yes. Because alcoholism is a mental and physical disease. You're addicted. You become addicted mentally, and you become addicted physically. And after time, and that's different for all people, you start having physical problems. Because the first drink of alcohol, it starts depleting you of vitamins. And I do have a chapter in the book that talks about in recovery to heal your body with the use of vitamins. And because over time you literally deplete yourself to deathly levels.
So as you consume alcohol, the body begins to break down. And that's progressive as well.
Yes.
It doesn't just break down like all of a sudden. It breaks down over time. So what is the breakdown in the body? What are the organs? What are the functions that we depend on that now become impaired and weakened as a result of alcohol consumption?
And the one you hear about the most is the liver, cirrhosis of the liver, and that's a slow, gradual
Well, you die from that. That's where death
breakdown
comes in. That's right. Once
of-
your liver
of the
goes
liver.
beyond a certain point.
But it also affects your heart, and you can have many heart problems, stomach problems, nervous system problems. Those are the main areas that are affected by alcohol. At the same time, you see you're killing off some brain cells.
It's your
too.
brain, yeah. It's
And
your brain.
you become less and less vocal or...
That's right. You know, one thing that we always learn about the liver is the liver gets affected pretty quickly upon the alcohol consumption. But if you stop drinking, the liver is a forgiving organ.
Yeah.
It heals.
Yeah.
There can be healing up to a certain point. After a certain point, it probably does not. But if you stop your drinking, that liver can begin to heal. And we know that in the brain, too. There are certain areas of the brain that are affected by alcohol and that are depleted. They don't function as well. But if you stop drinking over a period of time, there are certain areas of the brain that can be restored. Not all of them, but there are some areas that tend to be a little bit restored. But you got to stop totally. You got to stop.
Yes.
That's the only answer to it.
Yes. The example I give in my book is the same. If you drink so long, so much, you literally have very little mental capacity left. That can be healed. The same as with a car accident or a stroke or victim. Mm-hmm. You do it with repetitive action, what we call rehab. Mm-hmm. And you can, the amazing brain, and I call it that, will rewire itself. And this is called brain plasticity. And the brain will literally relearn to do this with repetitive actions, just like a stroke victim learns to use an arm or something again, or an accident victim learns to walk again. The same with alcoholism. If you reach that point, if you want to repair, that's in the vitamin chapter in the book, but it can be done.
You know, it's an interesting point when you say if you stop drinking, the body can start to repair itself. You know, in most of medicine today, when you have an illness, you have a disease, you have something happen, you take medicine. You take medicine. And it's supposed to do some kind of healing process within your body. In this case, we have alcoholism as a disease which heals best when you don't take something.
Yeah.
When you just don't take something. Now, maybe a vitamin supplement to help kind of bring up the basic functions of the body, that might be helpful. Yeah. But all the medications that are on the market today, it's best not to take medication and let the body heal itself from within.
Yeah, with nutrition.
Okay.
And I'll talk a little bit about cirrhosis of the liver. I've seen people with as little as just a few years drinking, they have cirrhosis of the liver. And the liver is the only organ in the body that can reheal itself 25%. Okay? Mm-hmm. And with the right combination of nutrition and vitamins, it can rebuild itself. Mm-hmm. But then I've seen people with 30 years of drinking and with no cirrhosis of the liver. Mm-hmm. So that's a real individual thing, and this is something that needs to be checked out if you've had any length of time drinking. So,
you know, several years ago I did a research study, and we took a large group of alcoholics and we studied their drinking pattern, and what we found, and we related it to health, and we took the drinking pattern over here, we took their health patterns over here, and we studied them. And what we came out with the conclusion is that if you drink for 20 years, and actually this study showed 21 years, actually, 21 years, the body breaks down. The body breaks down, and it was almost universal.
Yeah.
There's a breakdown in the body after 20 years of drinking. Now, it isn't at 20 years, it's progressive over time, but it shows itself in a major disorder, a major disease, a major dysfunction at 20 years of drinking.
Yeah.
So in a sense, that's kind of the scope of drinking. It does affect the body, and it impairs the body, but it will harm the body and harm the individual physically, certainly at 20 years, and some before that.
Sure.
Some were after that, but around that time.
Yes, you can. Many homeless, some individuals that are 25 and 30, and a lot of their problems may have been caused by alcohol. Mm-hmm. But yet it's that same. Individuals are different, and you could have a accelerated degeneration of the body.
Yeah. You know, there's this idea that alcohol is just a start, and it moves on to other drugs, and it moves on to a lifestyle that's destructive. It moves on into criminal kind of behavior. You know, it moves on to social dysfunctional, behavior. It moves on into hurting marriages, hurting family relationships, parent-child relationships. Everything suffers, everything hurts, but it moves on. But it also moves upward to a higher drug or to a more dangerous drug or to a more destructive drug on the body. I mean, we know that as marijuana, and we know that as the opioids. And there are a number of drugs on the market that the alcohol just seems to lead to that.
Yes. And from all the drug addicts that I talk to, about 95% of them, alcohol is a precursor to drug use. They do the alcohol in the beginning for the what we talk about, that little glow, the glow. Mm-hmm. But then they want a bigger and better glow.
So you have to go to a higher level or more substantial.
When you're drinking alcohol, you lose your inhibitions and judgment and everything else, and you want to try this drug. And 95%, alcohol was a precursor to drug use. Okay.
Well, I'll tell you, let's take a break.
Okay.
And let's come back and talk about that, because I think this is a very critical issue in our day-to-day, because here in Fresno, we have now voted to allow marijuana to be used. And this silly idea that it's only for medical use. Everything's medical. Everything's medical. So you can use it for any person you want. And then we justify it in the state level, the state of California, by saying, okay, it's for recreational purpose. Is there anything which is not recreational? I mean, everything is recreational. So it's a lie. And we bought the lie. Yeah. That somehow marijuana is going to be controlled and be limited. It's not be limited at all. Everything's medical and everything's recreational. So it's got use for anybody, any place, anywhere, for anything. So let's come back and talk about that. That's a very critical issue. And you address a little bit in your book, and we'll wrap up the book. We're talking with Greg Robinson, who wrote this book, The Alcoholism Handbook. So I encourage you to pick it up, okay?
Hey there, world. I'd like to introduce you to someone really special and really cool. This is my mom. My mom is an amazing person. She is a writer. She is a newly transplanted Texan. She is a woman of faith, and she loves 80s music. She also is a person with a very rare genetic muscular disorder called Pompe disease.
Pompe disease is a terminal, progressive illness. It's a genetic enzyme deficiency which ultimately leads to the destruction of your skeletal muscles. Those are the muscles that control how you move, your arms, your legs, and your torso. When your jaw or esophageal muscles are affected, you can no longer eat and require a feeding tube. When your diaphragm is impacted, you can't breathe on your own any longer and require a trach ventilator. When your legs are impacted, you will no longer be able to walk without assistance. You can lose bladder and bowel control. It affects children and adults, and eventually it kills you. It is rare, but it's real.
Now, we're lucky. My mom's still able to walk, though she uses a cane to get around most of the time. She's still able to breathe unassisted, but she can't go upstairs, and she needs some kind of assistance to get up from a seated position, like if she's sitting in a chair. She has to examine every activity ahead of time to know if there are things like handicap parking, accessible buildings, and even functional bathrooms. All of her activities depend heavily on the weather. A windy day can be just as dangerous as an icy one. She jokes that you can tell what kind of day she's having by whether she can lift her arms high enough to do her hair. And she recently moved into a one-story house specifically with the idea that she's one day going to need a wheelchair to get around. Those are the kind of things she has as everyday concerns. Her normal everyday fears are things like dropping her keys or falling in public and not being able to get up. That actually happened a couple of years ago. She fell and fractured her pelvis because she was unable to break her fall.
I receive an enzyme replacement therapy every 2 weeks for life. It's a 6-hour IV. It helps slow the progression of the disease, but it is not a cure. And it costs about $100,000 every time you sit in the chair. Insurance takes care of most of that if you're lucky, but not everyone is, and the expenses add up very quickly. Things like wheelchairs, accessible vehicles, special housing, travel costs to medical conferences, doctor's appointments, and clinical trials. Luckily, there is a group that helps families with Pompe handle these costs. The United Pompe Foundation is a group connecting funds with real people who need help. This was founded by a father whose son has Pompe disease, and they could not find the resources that they needed. They assist patients and their families with medical costs and other expenses that they need to survive day to day. Every little bit helps.
There are a lot of things in life that we really take for granted, and sometimes the scariest things in the world are the things that you can't see. So today we're asking for you to help us shed a little light on a rare and scary disease. Please share this video with your friends, your family, strangers, anybody that you come across. Education is a big thing. It makes a big difference. And another way to make a really huge difference in someone's life is to go check out the United Pompe Foundation. Their website is in this video description. Click on it, check it out, and go ahead and donate some money if you're able to. Again, this is an organization giving real help to real people who are amazing and need it, like my mom. I love her, and thank you so much for helping us out. Thank you so much.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Okay, thanks for coming back. We have just a few minutes before we end the program today, and we're dealing with the issue of alcohol consumption in the family. And at the end of our last segment, I just introduced the idea that it's not uncommon for somebody to go from alcohol consumption to some of the other drugs, and marijuana was certainly one of them. The opioids is certainly one of them. There are a number of other drugs. What's the problem? What's the issue that develops that way, Greg?
Well, now you're moving into dual addictions.
Oh, yes.
Because normally when people do drugs, they don't stop alcohol. It's still part of the whole process. So marijuana and drugs have the same consequences as alcohol use. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And if I'll give you one quick example, a young man, I got a call one morning this week. A young man had been caught drinking, I'll just say at work. He works with kids and young people. And he was sent home immediately. And the next day I was supposed to meet with him after his meeting with the school board. And that quick, in 2 days, he got caught drinking at school, at the employment, and was terminated the next day. And it's that quick, that simple.
Yeah.
And that's the way alcohol and drugs work. The consequences after the fact are
very immediate and very strong.
And the part of that was he's a young guy, 25 years old. He's drinking 3 drinks a night, he says. But he's also using medical marijuana to go to sleep. He got a medical
That's excessive drinking under any standard.
A medical marijuana card to help him go to sleep. And to the way I deal with things with the people that I talk to, if you can't sleep, read. If you still can't sleep, read. And if you still can't sleep, read some more.
There are a lot of sleeping programs. You can learn how to sleep in many, many different ways. You don't need marijuana to do that.
Yeah, but we're justifying.
It's a lie. We bought into a lie.
Yeah. Marijuana for a lot of different things. I have seen some good documentaries about good uses for marijuana, but to help you sleep, to me, is not a valid reason for
That's right.
that. So all your consequences that happen with alcoholism, those same consequences will happen in a population using marijuana. And you already see they're happening with the population using drugs. So it's all the same.
It moves on into the opioids, which are the pain medications, which are being abused by great numbers these days.
Yeah, the same protocol in this book can be used for opioid addiction also.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, in terms of treating it and helping people break that addiction.
Yeah.
But it's harder to break an addiction of alcohol. It's even harder to break addiction when you have alcohol and marijuana and an opioid and whatever other drugs might be taken. When you're multiple drugs, it's dual addiction. Is it even possible?
And here's the key that I always say. This is the only disease, alcoholism, that the person has to heal themselves. A doctor can't fix them. No medication is going to fix you. You have to have that desire and willingness to stop. If you have that, then we can build on that to a non-drinking lifestyle. Okay.
But how are you going to do that? When you were raised in a family of alcohol, you were raised in a family of drinking, you were raised in an extended family of drinking, you were socializing in the peer groups of adolescents drinking. And then you're going to say you have to heal yourself?
Yes.
Wow.
If you let the states and the court punish you, you'll do it with negative punishment.
Well,
but the whole key in recovery is that the person has to have that desire to want to stop.
What about that phrase that Alcoholics Anonymous use, you got to hit bottom? What does that mean?
That means you'll hit bottoms with alcohol, and the more you drink, the more bottoms you will go down.
In other words, you'll lose your marriage, you'll lose your children, you'll lose your home,
finances.
You'll lose your job.
You can turn it around at any point in time and go back up, but that's the key. You have to want to stop. So
that's asking a big deal.
Yes, but that's the way alcoholism works. And if you talk to your kids about this early on, about choices being every second of the day, you get into those choices of not even trying alcohol.
Yeah.
Okay. And those are key points. Is about get truthful with yourself and deal with the alcohol issue before those incomprehensible demoralization acts happen.
That's a great ending point. That's a great end. We got to end, but that's a great ending
Okay.
point. You got to be truthful with yourself.
Yes.
You got to be truthful with your children. You got to be truthful with your parents. You got to be truthful with your spouse. You got to be truthful with your employer. I mean, it's truthfulness. And unless you are in the area of truthfulness, you'll never get into out of the addiction phase. You'll never get into a truthful lifestyle.
Yeah.
Before we end today, I have a tip for the day. Like I always do every week. I have a tip for the day. And here's your tip for the day, okay? If alcohol is causing you and your family a problem, alcohol is the problem. Okay? Just look at that on the screen. If alcohol is causing you and your family a problem, then the problem is the alcohol. Okay? And you do something about it. And then that problem begins to fade away and to minimize. So, hey, thanks for joining me today, and we'll see you next week. And Dr. Teach Me to Parent. This has been Mr. Greg Robinson, who wrote his book, The Alcoholism Handbook. Barnes & Noble, Amazon. Pick up a copy. If you have a problem in the area of alcohol in any form, pick up a copy. Bye for now.
CentralValleyTalk.com